2025 Language Arts CBT. Hi, welcome back to the channel, Pep Stars. I know you are tired just like how I am. I'm pepped out. I've had these papers from last week and I've opened these papers on my laptop from last week and I could not get the time to do the review because I've just been so tired. And again, I'm busy doing other stuff too as well. So please, pardon my lateness. I hope you're still intrigued to find out about the answers for the questions, but I really could not do anything earlier than now. Whew, it's really a sigh. All right, so this is the language arts paper. So let's start going through the questions. Let's read the instruction. The screenshot below is from an electronic notice board at the Norman Manley International Airport in Kingston, Jamaica. Examine it carefully, then use it to answer items 1 to 6. So I'm just going to leave it here a little for you to just re-examine it. And now let's move into the questions. How many flights are shown on the electronic notice board? Let's count the flights. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 flights. Which airline appears most frequent? So back at the notice. And the one that I'm seeing most frequent is JetBlue. Let's move on to number 3. Which term means the same as status as used on the electronic notice board? Let's look at status. And that would be arrived. So it wouldn't be turbulence, neither would it be time. Not referring to a date either, neither date or time, and that would so it would be position. That's the most appropriate term. Number 4, which statement is best supported by the evidence from the electronic notice board? Intercaribbean is the largest airline. JetBlue is Jamaica's favorite airline. Most flights are usually ahead of time. Some flights are delayed for long periods. Let's look at it. Let's look at the schedule arrive time and the actual arrive time. So this arrived the time it was supposed to arrive. This arrived earlier. This flight also arrived earlier. Likewise this one and likewise this one. So therefore we can see that the flights are actually arriving ahead of time also for this JetBlue flight. So most flights are usually ahead of time. Which 2 flights had the closest actual arrival time? Let's look at the arrival times. These 2 were close, Intercaribbean and Caribbean Airways, but let's look at the others. The JetBlue and the Caribbean airline was also very close. Those look to be the two answers because that was just 3 minutes apart. So that's number five. Alright, final question on the electronic notice board, which is supported by evidence from the electronic notice board. Inter-Caribbean flights from Trinidad and Tobago. Flights from New York have the most passengers. Two flights have come in from Fort Lauderdale, and most Jamaicans prefer to travel on JetBlue. Let's see what is supported by the evidence. So Inter-Caribbean is not arriving from Trinidad. It's actually arriving from Turks and Caicos. There's one flight here from Fort Lauderdale. Let's see if there's another one. There's also another one. So that looks like one of the answers. It doesn't show how many persons actually come on the flight. So we can't say the most Jamaicans prefer. It didn't say which nationality the persons were. So therefore, two flights have come in from Fort Lauderdale is the correct answer. Let's move on to the next question. The notice below was posted on TikTok. Read it carefully, then use the information to answer items 7 to 10. Patty King. Just gonna leave that there so you can look at it. How many locations does Patty King have in Spanish Town? Let's look. There's two locations, one at Burke Road and one on Oxford Road. So that's two. How many locations will be open between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on Friday? Let's look. So this is Friday. And it says 7. Let's look back at the time. 7 a.m. between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is not correct. This is not one. Oh boy, I made an error. 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. So this is 1, 2, 3. It's actually 3 locations. Sorry. Which location will be closing the latest overall? The one that closes 6:30. That's the one, and that's Manningdale. The notice is most likely for which holiday period? It said March 29 to April 1. Why did I just mark the entire thing out? This looks like an Easter opening. Oh, Easter. Which statement best explain the reason for posting this notice? Patty King has a lot of customers. Holiday affects regular opening hours. That is usually the reason. Many Jamaicans really like party. Some location will be closed on weekends. Well, as I said, based on it says temporary open hours. So based on the holiday, which is the Easter holiday, they may be opening at irregular hours. So the holiday affects the regular opening hours. Now let's move on to the next set of questions. Two stories below about music streaming company Spotify. Examine them carefully and use the information to answer items 12 to 17. I will see the bar chart here showing Spotify users by age group. And then there's a bar chart showing Spotify users by the years. How many users would have joined Spotify or been on Spotify for the period 2015 to 2023. Alright, which two age group make up the largest portions of Spotify users? Let's look. We need to look at the first one, and this is this group and this group 18 to 24 and 25 to 34. 18 to 24, 25 to 24. That's the correct answer. Which conclusion can be drawn from the information in source 2? The number of Spotify users almost tripled between 2015 and 2019. Music streaming grew significantly between 2015 to 2023. 2015 was an important year for music streaming services. Music streaming services provide subscribers with more variety. So we can see a whole increase here, that it has grown tremendously. Let's look back at the answers. I can actually just tick this to be 15 because we just marked the increase. Alright, and this is the correct answer. Music streaming has grew significantly between 2015 to 2023. Alright, which period did Spotify grow the most? And that is from 2019 to 2023. Let's look and see if that's an answer. Well, the next one is, this will be most appropriate, 2021 to 2023. So this is the period it grew the most. We answered 15 already. What is most likely to happen in 2025? We would assume that Spotify would continue to grow. So we can say they may have 700 million users because they're already at 574. Which conclusion can be drawn from the two sources? Spotify has outperformed all other streaming companies over the last 10 years. There's no competition, there's no comparison between any other competing companies. So that it could not be the answer. Spotify's appeal to people from different age groups may have contributed to its growth. That might be the answer. Spotify has the best features. All right, I'm going to stop reading there because it didn't say anything about the features. And in 2023, Spotify had nearly 600 million users worldwide. But it says from two sources. This is just from the one source. We can say B would be the better answer here. Alright, now let's look at this passage on Portmore and then use it to answer items 18 to 22. Just 7 years after Jamaica gained independence, West Indies home contractors Wicon built the first housing scheme in Portmore. It was called Independence City. This was a response to a national need for affordable housing. The scheme consisted of approximately 1,200 and 3 bedroom houses. The next community was to be constructed was Edgewater Villas. As Jamaica's population expanded, more community development took place. Bridgeport in 1972, Passage Fort also 1972, Waterford in 1975, Portsmouth in 1978, Southborough in 1979. With the development of Portmore came a growth in its population. When developers started working in the late 1960s, close to 2,000 persons were living in the Portmore area. By 1970, there was a sharp increase to about 5,000 persons. In the 1980s, more schemes were constructed. Cumberland, Westchester, and West Bay phases 1 and 2 were erected. During this period, it is estimated that approximately 77,000 persons were residing in Portmore. The beginning of the 1990s saw the construction of West Bay Phase 3 and Bridgeview, with an increase of units at Cumberland. This contributed to the growth in the already booming population. By this time, approximately 93,838 persons were residing in Portmore. The construction of Greater Portmore in the mid-90s
Thank you for
saw
watching.
an
Remember to like the
escalation
video,
in the
subscribe to the channel,
population, and the
and
number of
also hit
residents
that
in
notification
Portmore
bell so that
almost
you're informed when
doubled
a new video
to
is
roughly
uploaded.
160,000 persons. Along with housing schemes came schools and town center, churches, and other facilities. As a result of the rapid development, a law was passed granting Portmore municipal status in 2003. They were given the right to manage their own affairs, including the election of their own mayor. By far, the most considerable aspect of the development of Portmore is its status as the largest residential area in the Caribbean, with over 200,000 residents. How many persons were living in Portmore in the 1960s? Let's check. 1960s, close to 2,000 persons, about 2,000. Which community was the second to be built in Portmore? I believe it's Edgewater Villas, but let's check. The next community was Edgewater Villas. Which paragraph has the most evidence of Portmore's development? So this is number 1, 2. Looks between 2 and 3. Let's look at the answers and examine it a little bit more. Looks to be 3. 2, 3, 4. Let's read back the question. Which paragraph has the most evidence of Portmore's development? So in passage 2, only talked about the housing, the community that was developed, but then in source 3, it talks about the community and it also talks about the persons or the number of persons living in the area. So I'll choose source 3. Which best explains how Independence City may have gotten its name, because it was built shortly after independence. I didn't even know that, but immediately when I heard that, I thought about that. Alright, which conclusion can be drawn based on the evidence from the passage? Portmore is only a few miles from Kingston. Jamaica has many communities like Portmore. Portmore is known as the Sunshine City, or Jamaica's population is growing. Didn't say anything about Portmore's closeness to Kingston. Didn't also mention anything about other communities in Jamaica. Neither did it say anything about Portmore being the Sunshine City. So we can just assume that Jamaica's population is growing would be the best conclusion, because people are moving to Portmore. It shows that people are looking places to live. Now let's move on to the next passage. New school. 13 subjects, 13 different teachers. A deep sigh escaped Terry's lips as she wondered how she would be able to cope with the pressure of being a high school student. She looked at the book list once again and noticed that it listed 4 novels for English literature, plus another one for poetry, 5 texts for one subject. Another sigh. Then her shoulders went limp. Tears began to gather at the corner of her eyes. She quickly wiped them away with the back of her hand so no one would notice. She felt weak, so she had to sit down. There was a sea of students seated on the slab benches under the lignum-vitae trees. They seemed excited about being in high school. Terry did not feel the same. She wanted to return to the comfort of her primary school. The bell rang at 7:55 a.m. and all the students moved towards the auditorium. It was spacious on the inside, and more importantly, the auditorium was cooled by a large air-conditioned unit. The auditorium was a large blue and white building with very high ceilings. There were brown folded chairs laid out in 4 sections. The chairs had the words HCHS printed on the back. There was a stage at the front of the auditorium and a balcony to the left of the stage. 6 former students were sitting in the balcony while the principal and teachers were on the stage. The smell of new uniforms filled the air. Everyone was looking neat and bright-eyed. It made Terry feel good to be a part of the group. The principal got up to speak. She was a tall, slender woman with a warm smile that made you feel welcome. When she began speaking, Terry when she began speaking, she won Terry over with her words of welcome. Her words were calm and reassuring like a mother to a child that was afraid. Terry felt a little better. Ladies of Hartford City High, welcome to our family. Your journey to achieving great things begins here. Give yourself a round of applause for the hard work you put in so that you could earn a place here. As our motto says, after the battle, the reward. Welcome. The auditorium erupted with cheers from the new student. It was then that Terry realized that grade 7 was not something to fear. A warm feeling filled her belly, and she felt confident and ready to take on a new chapter of her life. In which month are the events in the story most likely to have taken place? And that would be September. It sounds like a new school year. In which paragraphs have most have the most evidence of the setting? Let's look for the one with the balcony. I remember that one. Alright, so this would be one. Looks like two. There's also three as well with a lot of settings. So this is one, two, three. Four was definitely not about the setting. So it's one and two. Who's telling this story? Let's look at who's telling the story. So it's not Terry because she wouldn't be using her own voice. She would have said, instead of Terry's lips, she would have said my. Telling the story, and that's a third person narrator because they keep using Terry's name or referring to her in the third person pronoun. Our next question: in which paragraph is the action most intense? Looks like to be one, two, three, four, five. It's either four or when the story was beginning. Let's look at the answers there. Action most intense. I'll go with one when she had the whole like an almost an anxiety of arriving at the new school. So I'll work with one. Alright, which is an example of a figurative language. The smell of new uniforms. Yes, you can. Deep sigh of escape. 13 different teachers. The bell rang at 7:55, and I take the smell of new uniforms. Fill the air. This is figuratively speaking, because we're not really smelling new uniforms filling the air. In which paragraph does the mood of the story begin to change? So initially here she was still um well, up to this paragraph she was still a bit anxious, but then right here where it says she felt a little better, this is where it started to change. So that was what, paragraph 3. hmm So let's see if 3 is there. So paragraph 3 is the answer. All right, so we're finished with those set of questions. And when I saw this paper, I started to laugh because the 2024 paper had this same exact passage. So I really don't need to read it again. All right, I'm just going to go straight to the questions. I'm looking if it had the same questions as well. It literally had the same questions. Students, if you watch the 2024 video, you should have just got everything here correct. Right? So we're just gonna select the correct answers. Which paragraph has evidence which best indicates how successful the Nokia 33 thing was? And that was what we had chose the first time. Was that paragraph 1? Oh, the tens. Let's look at this first one. So this was past tense because it used words such as was and sold. All of those are past tense. And then here it was paragraph 1. Chat as used in, this was a noun. We're just double checking, but literally it was the same thing. 7. Yes, chat was the noun here. It was same questions. Everyone should at least get this part of the paper correct. Which telephone feature was most important? And that was the text messaging. And the main idea was that features what makes cell phones attractive to customers. Let's move on to the last poem. At the theater, to the lady behind me. There, madam, you have seen this play. I've never saw it until today. You know the details of the plot, but let me tell you, I do not. The author seeks to keep from me the suspect's identity, and you're not a friend of his if you keep shouting who it is. The actors, in their funny way, have several funny things to say, but they do not amuse me more if you have said them just before. The merit of the drama lies the I understand in some surprise, but the surprise must now be small since you have foretold it all. The lady you have brought with you is, I infer, a half with two, but I can understand the piece without assistance from your niece. In short, lady, it would suit me just as well if you were mute. In fact, to make my meaning plain, I trust you will not speak again. And may I add one human touch? Don't breathe upon my neck so much. Wow. That's such a poem, eh? Alright. Let's look at number 34, which best describes the mood of the poem. Is it humorous? It sounds humorous. Optimistic? Not sure they're looking forward to anything. Melancholy? That would be sad. Reflective? They're not reflecting on anything. It's more humorous. How many persons in total were making it difficult for the persona to enjoy the play? Is it only one? No. I heard about the lady and I heard about the niece. And it says the lady you have brought with you. So let's say two or three. From which point of view are the events in the poem being told? This is first person because this is the person's telling the story and they use first person pronoun I. So there it's first person. Now let's look at number 37. The information in the box below expresses the persona's view, which explains the line in the box. The lady you have brought with you is, I infer, a half with two. Sitting too far from the persona was sitting too far from the stage. The persona was pleased with the performance of the actors. The persona was concerned that the play was too long. The persona was annoyed by the woman's conduct. And that is correct. Annoyed. Indeed. Alright, let's look at number 38. Which line from the poem best identifies the message being conveyed by the poet? But let me tell you, I do not know. I trust you will not speak again. This sounds more like it. Yes, because the person is telling the lady that's sitting behind them not to talk about the show, basically, or talk about the play. Who is the suspect most likely to be? The woman behind the persona, other members of the audience, a friend of the persona, a character in the play. Let's look back at line 6. The author seeks to keep from me the suspect's identity, and that's the character in the play. It says author. Final question. Which is the most important theme of the poem? Is it being considered not family and relationship, not love, not friendship being considered? I think would be most ideal. Tell me how you think you did, students. I want you to share. I'm gonna post it and you're gonna do like a whole poll rating to say how you think you did because I think by now everyone is much softer. The exams are finished, we are relieved, and therefore we can comment accurately on how these exams were because we're really not looking forward to another exams because all of them are finished. So thank you again, students, for watching the videos. Remember to share with other students who might not have seen the review again. I'm very sorry I'm so late, but I'm going to be uploading the others very shortly, so you can stay tuned to the channel because you know I've got you covered. Bye, everyone. Thanks for watching. Remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit